are watching World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. The bodies of 45 Palestinians previously held by Israel were handed over to Gaza hospital under ceasefire deal brokered by US President Donald Trump. The agreement stipulated that Israel would return 15 Palestinian bodies for each Israeli deceased returned. And on Monday, Hamas transferred 3 Israeli bodies and 1 Nepalese. The EU is working with G7 partners on a response to China's unjustified export controls on rare earths, which have already disrupted production for some EU companies. Trade Commissioner Maros Sefcovic stressed the need for a coordinated approach, and he is in close contact with G7 counterparts in China to find solutions. French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu proposed suspending the 2023 suspension reform until 2027 presidential election in a bid to win support from leftist lawmakers and secure passage for the 2026 budget. The move, which threatens President Macron's economic legacy, would cost billions but must be offset by savings to avoid worsening the deficit. An elite Madagascar military unit announced it has seized power following the National Assembly's impeachment of President André Rajoelina for desertion of duty. Colonel Michael Randriana, leader of the CAPSAT unit, declared this takeover in a statement outside a government building. A deadly fire at a garment factory and chemical warehouse in Dhaka, Bangladesh, killed at least 16 workers and injured 8 others. Authorities believe toxic gas inhalation was the cause of the fatalities, and the fire, which broke out on October 14, 2025, has been brought under control. The Kremlin welcomes US President Donald Trump's focus on peace talks for Ukraine after the Gaza ceasefire and hopes he can push Kyiv towards a settlement. Meanwhile, Russia accuses Ukraine of stalling, while Ukraine says Russia's demands are like asking for surrender. The US and China have rolled out special port fees on shipping firms registered in either countries as the trade war between the two of the world's largest economies expands. The US first announced this fee earlier this year, and China has levied reciprocal fees for US-linked ships in its port, with both set to activate today. Torrential rains that lashed Mexico last week have killed at least 64 people, and 65 more are missing after a tropical depression triggered landslides and flooding in parts of Gulf Coast and central states. The Nasser Medical Center in Gaza has confirmed the arrival of 45 Palestinian bodies recently handed over by Israel as part of a ceasefire agreement brokered by US President Donald Trump. Under the terms of the deal, Israel is supposed to return 15 Palestinian bodies for each deceased Israeli citizen that is released by Hamas. Earlier, Hamas released 3 Israeli bodies and 1 Nepalese national. The bodies of Palestinians, many of which remain unidentified, were delivered to Gaza on Tuesday. Local authorities report that Israel still holds hundreds of Palestinian bodies, including those of fighters involved in the initial attack on October 7th. Meanwhile, families are anxiously waiting to learn if their loved ones are among the returned. Listen in.
إن أشوف ابني من ضمن هذول الجثث أولى، ولحتى الآن مش عارف أين بستنى، وإن شاء الله يكون من بينهم حتى أريح قلبي يا الله، حتى يطمن قلبي يا الله، إن شاء الله يكون من هذا شهيد الله يرحمه، بس إن شاء الله يكون منهم حتى أريح قلبي، ما ضل أستنى والشلوى على ابني وأنا مش عارف عنه شيء.
Aharon Levarko, Israeli journalist who served in the Israeli Defense Force for 9 years, joins us at this point in time. Thank you for your time on NewsX World, and I'd like to understand from you. Of course, there is an exchange that is underway. What is it that you can tell us at this point in time?
Well, thank you for having me first. And secondly, yes, we are waiting for the Palestinian people, namely Hamas, to find our captives who are no longer living, our dead captives, and there will be an exchange. Palestinian prisoners, murderers, will be handed over, but this is part of the Donald Trump plan that there will be mutual understanding and mutual agreement in the exchanges of these, from our point of view, from captives, and from the Palestinian point of view, prisoners. So things are a little gray, cloudy at the moment. There seems to be some either reneging or confusion. And there have been actually questions to some of the dead bodies inside of Gaza. Where are they? Are they in Hamas's hands or not? Big question mark. So hopefully the Red Cross, who are kind of acting as a mediator there, will be able to help as well. But I'm sure they're working as hard as possible. I hope so. This is a very difficult moment. Firstly, we've got our living captives back, so that is a huge hurdle that has been crossed. But for the families of those that are, who know that their families have been killed, you know, they want to bring some kind of closure to this nightmare. And I'm sure the Palestinian people who know that, you know, their family members will be released, you know, I'm sure there's some anxiety on their side as well. So it's a bit of a drawn out situation, but hopefully it will smoothen out.
Absolutely. I request you to stay on with us. We, in fact, have some more news coming our way. Palestinian Foreign Minister Varsen Aghabekian Shaheen says the chance for peace in Gaza must not be lost despite only caution optimism surrounding the current ceasefire. Speaking in Athens alongside her Greek counterpart, Shaheen said Palestinians are committed to moving forward and urged global support, not just for Gaza, but for the West Bank too, calling the humanitarian needs monumental. Let's in fact listen in to her comments.
Yes, we come here at some difficult times, but also with some cautious optimism. And we need to seize the opportunity. Today we have an opportunity for peace. If we weren't 100% sure about what this entails, we need to make it happen. Because without making it happen, we will continue with the vicious cycle of violence that will bring us nowhere, but violence breeds more violence. So we will do on the Palestinian side whatever it takes to ensure that we move on from one stage to the second, because in the final analysis, what we are aiming for is our liberation. At the end of the road, we see a sovereign state of Palestine in which we can prosper as Palestinians, we can contribute as Palestinians, and live in peace and security with our neighbors.
The Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt will stay closed throughout Wednesday, and the flow of aid into Palestinian enclave will be reduced as per officials. The decision came after Palestinian militant group Hamas did not hand over bodies of all dead hostages it is holding as part of the new US brokered ceasefire deal. Israel will also reduce the amount of aid flowing into Gaza as part of the sanctions against the Hamas group. Meanwhile, the International Committee of the Red Cross calls for all crossings into Gaza to be open to allow desperately needed aid into the war-torn Palestinian territory. Let's in fact listen in to what Red Cross spokesperson has to say.
partager le pouvoir avec le Parlement. Voici incontestablement une rupture. Dans une assemblée divisée, un gouvernement, même en s'appuyant sur la majorité la plus relative, ne peut, dans la durée, agir sans tenir compte des oppositions. Ce n'est pas possible, ce n'est plus possible et surtout, ce n'est pas souhaitable. J'ai renoncé à utiliser l'article 49, alinéa 3 de la Constitution. C'est la garantie pour l'Assemblée nationale que le débat, notamment budgétaire, mais pas seulement, dans tous les domaines, vivra.
Mr. Aaron Lavarco continues to be with us on the broadcast, and I'd like to understand from you the decision that has been made to close or temporarily halt the Rafah border. What exactly do you make of it?
Well, the Rafah border is a very, very crucial border from Egypt to the Gaza Strip. And on that border also, it's from the Gaza Strip to Israel. So it's a very high security border. We don't want any, from Israel's perspective, any troubles going in or out, anyone being smuggled, any ammunition being smuggled as well. So that border will remain closed. You know, while there was a day of rejoicing yesterday, people are talking about a ceasefire, people are talking about peace. We don't want any troublemakers to try and flare up any flames or do any damage while there's a sense of hope in the atmosphere. And like the lady that was interviewed a few minutes ago, you know, she doesn't want there to be violence, and she said that violence will breed violence. So instead, let's work for peace, and let's not, you know. But in the meantime, Israel has to have secure borders, and so that border crossing will remain that way. And you know, it's sad because if we go back 20 plus years, when Israel pulled out of the Gaza Strip, this was a fantastic opportunity for the Palestinian people to actually have their autonomy and freedom that she was talking about. Sadly, though, you know, the billions and billions and billions of dollars that was given to the Palestinian people, instead of being turned into schools and hospitals and houses and farms and roads, sadly that money went to building underground tunnels and stockpiling weapons, and you know, we don't want to see that again. So we have to keep borders secure, and I think that's why the Rafah border is remaining closed.
Absolutely. I request you to stay on with us while we shift our focus to some other news that we're tracking. Well, in a bid to salvage his government, French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu has proposed suspending the controversial 2023 pension reform, one of President Macron's flagship policies. The reform, which gradually increases the retirement age from 62 to 64, has faced widespread opposition, leading to massive protests and forcing Lecornu to seek a compromise with leftist lawmakers. Listen in to what the French president has stated.
Je proposerai au Parlement dès cet automne que nous suspendions la réforme de 2023 sur les retraites jusqu'à l'élection présidentielle. Aucun relèvement de l'âge n'interviendra à partir de maintenant jusqu'à janvier 2028, comme l'avait précisément demandé la CFDT. En complément, la durée d'assurance sera elle aussi suspendue et restera à 170 trimestres jusqu'à janvier 2028.
The suspension would last until after the 2027 presidential elections, costing the government an estimated €4 million in 2026 and €1.8 billion in 2027. This move is a part of the last-ditch efforts to pass a 2026 budget that includes €30 billion in cuts to address France's high deficit, which is expected to reach 5.4% of GDP this year. However, Lecornu's proposal risks alternating conservative Republicans and international investors already concerned about the country's fiscal stability. With political instability at an all-time high and no confidence votes looming, Locorno's survival hinges on the success of this strategy as Macron's administration grapples with its most severe crisis in decades. Joining us on the broadcast is Hamid Cheret, French columnist, joining us from Paris. Thank you for your time speaking to us on NewsX World. Well, my first question to you. Prime Minister Locorno's proposal to suspend the pension reform has come under intensive pressure from both sides. How sustainable do you think his government is, given the current political fragmentation in France?
Well, thank you for inviting me, first of all. So I think this is not a very sustainable position for the new Prime Minister in France. So there is a second Locorno II government that has been renominated. So he resigned, and then the President Emmanuel Macron keep on it. I think the Locorno government is on shaky ground due to the fragile majority and the opposition from various parties. The current government doesn't have any majority in the parliament, and I believe there is a kind of, instability in the parliament.
Absolutely. Now, how do you see the French public reacting to the suspension of the pension reforms? Could this be seen as a victory for the protest movements or a sign of government weakness?
Well, what we can say, and I will say, is that the French public might be divided, but with some saying is as a victory, and the others see kind of sign of weakness for the government. So the public French, opinion, they are divided on the, on the new government. So French public is divided, and now we still waiting for the general discourses that the French Prime Minister has to be done in the next few days.
Absolutely. With that, I'd like to thank you for joining us on NewsX World, sharing your perspectives with us. When moving on to some other news that we're tracking, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has called the Israel-Hamas ceasefire agreements the first real chance at a two-state solution in more than 3 decades. Speaking in British Parliament, Starmer praised the deal as a breakthrough for Middle East peace and credited US President Donald Trump for his role in brokering the agreement, alongside leaders from Egypt, Qatar and Turkey. Starmer said the UK will host a Gaza reconstruction conference later this week, pledging British support in rebuilding the war-torn territory and in efforts to dismantle Hamas's military capabilities. He emphasized that while peace has brought relief, the harder task now is ensuring it lasts, reaffirming Britain's commitment to a secure Israel and a viable Palestinian state living side by side. Listen into what he said.
But, Mr. Speaker, let me be very clear. Celebrate the relief of peace today. Making that peace last will be no less difficult a task. Along with our allies, our absolute focus in the days and weeks ahead is the relentless implementation of this peace plan. That is no small challenge. As this House knows, there can be no viable future for Gaza, no security for Israel, if Hamas can still threaten bloodshed and terror. So we will work to put that threat out of action for good. Because, Mr. Speaker, this is the first real chance we've had at a two-state solution since the Oslo Accords over 3 decades ago. So we are fully committed to this, because a safe and secure Israel, alongside a viable Palestinian state, is the only way to secure lasting peace for the Middle East.
Mr. Aaron Lavarco continues to be with us on the broadcast, and I'd like to understand from you, what exactly do you make of these statements that have been made by the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer?
I think he's right on as far as agreeing that the only way is of the only possible way that really to give this a chance is the dismantling of Hamas, that they lay down any weapons, they hand over any weapons, which was part of Donald Trump's 20-point plan. And by the way, Hamas have said, we will not do that. So this is not good. And he made it clear that it's going to be a challenge to work and get this done. So, you know, he did say that this is the first real chance since Oslo, which was 1993, over 30 years ago, when Israel pulled out of the Gaza Strip just over 20 years ago. The Palestinian Authority, they were the ones in control in the Gaza Strip, but sadly, Hamas took over by a kind of a coup, and they ruled the roost. And like I mentioned before, instead of the money going towards building, it went towards weapons and tunnels. So it's very clear. He is in agreement with not only Donald Trump, but all the nations that have agreed. And there's many, many nations, including most of the Muslim Arab nations in the region, who are totally in agreement. So, you know, there's going to be work to be done. Who is going to get rid of Hamas?
Right.
Who is going to help do that? That's a big, big question.
Right, absolutely. With that, I'd like to thank you for joining us on NewsX World, sharing your insights with us. Moving on to some other news that we're tracking. Well, Turkish President Erdogan announced that today Turkey will collaborate with the United States and Gulf states to create a plan for Gaza's reconstruction following the ceasefire agreement signed on Monday. He emphasized that he hopes the agreements will pave the way for the creation of an independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital, calling it a potential milestone towards lasting peace in the region. Listen to what he said.
Şarm El Şeyh'te güçlü bir irade ortaya koyduk. Amerikan Başkanı Sayın Trump, Mısır Cumhurbaşkanı Sayın Es-Sisi, Katar Emiri Şeyh Temim'le birlikte imzaladığımız dörtlü deklarasyonun bölgemizde kalıcı barışa giden yolda yeni bir kilometre taşı olmasını ümit ediyorum. Gazze'nin yeniden ayağa kaldırılması muhtemelen yıllar alacak. Olayın bir inşa süresi var, bir de ihya süresi var. İnşa ve ihya. Ve Türkiye'nin üzerine burada önemli bir görev düşüyor. Tabii bunu başta Amerika olmak üzere Körfez ülkeleri hep birlikte görüşecek, tartışacak ve bu konuda ne gibi adımlar atacağımızı bir karara bağlayacağız. Arzumuz dün atılan anlamlı adımın kalıcı ve adil bir barışla.
Joining us at this point in time is Ali Mohammed Abushfaq, independent Palestinian researcher, joining us at this point in time. Thank you for your time speaking to us. And I'd like to understand from you, what exactly do you make of the statements that have been made by Turkish President Erdogan when he says that he is vowing to extend support to Gaza in the reconstruction? What do you make of it?
Thank you, Aswar. The thing is, Turkey and Recep Tayyip Erdogan, one of the close and friend with Hamas and alliance with Hamas, especially Hamas office, it's in Turkey. So definitely he will support Hamas and he will support the decision of Hamas. I guess recently when he was in the loop with the Sharm el-Sheikh negotiation and the deal and the peace deal with Hamas in Sharm el-Sheikh, it was a demand of Hamas to be one of the mediator with them and one of the guarantee for them to Israel amplify the implicated ceasefire deal with Hamas. So I guess what he's doing about reconstructing Gaza, one of the significant and toughest phase for the negotiation between Hamas and Israel nowadays, because this is the first phase of the negotiation is releasing the hostages and exchange the Palestinian prisoner. This is the first phase. Second phase is talking and withdraw Israelis troop from the some area from Gaza, and Israel up to now sizing 53% of Gaza. In second phase, Israel will withdraw and will size around 20+% of Gaza Strip, and Hamas must be lie down its weapon. And nowadays, the news talking about they are identifying the technocrat government who's going to rule Gaza, and now the name of the ministry, it's checked by Israel forces, and Israel is confirming these names should be not belongs to any Palestinian function or Palestinian party, so either political or militant, has nothing with any relation or relative from the militant Palestinian militant group. So this statement, it's no doubt, I guess it's a very tough to apply for this time, and there is no one talk about restructuring Gaza in this moment. It's talking all about the ceasefire, and also rooted this ceasefire. It's fragile up to now. Hamas delight to hand over around 20+ Israelis remain body. Just what has handed over around 4, and up to now Hamas facing several of barriers and hazards to hand over and identify the place of the remain body of Israelis hostages in Gaza. So the thing says up to now, today just before 5 minutes, the Palestinians resistance or Hamas military group, they confirmed today night they are going to hand over another group of the remain body, but up to now it's not identified at which time and how many they are going. They said now 4 also, more 4 remain body they are going to hand over to Red Crisis at 10 p.m. Palestinian time or local time. Up to now, the situation is not clear, and also in contracts of delaying to release the remain body, Israel decided to not reopen the Egypt-Gaza border and reduce the number of the humanitarian truck to enter Gaza. So up to now, the situation is not rooted, and up to now, it's not clear either the next phase of the negotiation is going to complete it or no, and it's not the huge challenge that facing them, the weapon and lying down Hamas weapon. This is a huge duty. So up to now, there is no one talk about the reconstruction in Gaza and who's going to fund it them. Egypt confirmed that they are going to take this duty, and this is one of the responsibility of Egypt, especially after the war 2021, which called 11 Day of War. Egypt also restructured some area in Gaza. Yeah.
All right, absolutely. With that, I'd like to thank you for joining us on NewsX for sharing your insights with us. Moving on to some more news that we're tracking. Ukrainian President Zelensky has revoked the citizenship of Odessa's long-serving mayor Hennady Trukhanov. According to reports, Trukhanov holds Russian citizenship. Trukhanov has been mayor of Odessa, Ukraine's largest port city, since 2014. He has previously denied any links to Russian citizenship. While no official statement has been made by the president's office, the move is seen as a part of Ukraine's wider crackdown on potential internal threats amid its ongoing war with Russia. Trukhanov has faced multiple corruption allegations in the past and was temporarily suspended from office earlier this year. This latest decision raises serious questions about political loyalty and national security in Ukraine's frontline regions. Trukhanov has not responded to new allegations thus far. And that's a wrap on